Alabama A&M turned down $700,000 from the Alabama Sports Council, and it was the right call. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and it ends with an S. And today's episode is all about Alabama A&M turning down a $700,000 deal with the Alabama Sports Council, and that's funding with the Magic City Classic, and that'll be going up against Alabama State. Now, we have a little bit of an Alabama counter, and I'm going to see how many times do I say the state in a matter of 30 minutes. I just said it 4 times, and we're about 2 minutes into the show. So my over-under is 25. The FanDuel odds are 25.5. How many times will he say the state name? But we're going to wrap it up about how this deal, or lack thereof, could actually lead to the Alabama State Council not being a part of the Magic City Classic ever again. Before that, we're going to break down the deal in general and what's going on between these two parties who couldn't come to an agreement. But I'm going to start off with the biggest part of this, in my opinion, and it's the fact that Alabama A&M was right. The Bulldogs made the right call to say, you know what? We're not going to partner with the council. This is not the route that we want to go. We're going to break away from tradition, and I know that can be difficult, but in this situation, in theory, because it hasn't gone into action yet, but in theory, this was the complete right call, and I will break down the whole deal in segment 2. But right now, I feel like this was the biggest takeaway because overall, there's 2 big reasons that this needed to happen, right? And sometimes I feel like I shouldn't have to justify this because we're in a day and age where bet on yourself, bet on yourself, bet on yourself. And outside of just the cliche and the self-empowerment, this is good business while also betting on yourself. But I think that more people should applaud it and would have applauded it if Alabama A&M was an individual instead of an institution. I think more people have been like, oh yeah, look at that Bulldog betting on themselves. But that's exactly what the Bulldogs are doing. Now, the 2 reasons that I feel like this was the right call. Number 1, yearly income versus, I won't say income, but revenue versus bi-yearly revenue. That's the big difference between these 2 deals. Alabama A&M turned down $700,000 from the council. I'm going to slow it down every single time because I want you to hear every numeric when I say the word. I want you to hear every $1,000, every single $1, every single nickel, every single penny. I want you to hear all of it because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And I'm curious, who's looked at sideways more? The Bulldogs for turning it down or the Mouth of the South for agreeing with it? I just wonder. But look, the obvious downside is you don't have $700,000 guaranteed to you every other year. That's the downside. By not partnering with the council, Alabama A&M has no guarantee of any sort of money from that specific revenue. Right? The council is going to give you $700,000 every single time you are the home team. However, the upside within it is now you don't have to be the home team to make money of your own. You don't. Before that, you had to be the home team in order for the council to give you that, I guess, essentially a stipend. So it bounced between Alabama State and Alabama A&M every other year. State, A&M, State, A&M, State, A&M, right? But now you get to make money of your own. Now you get to say, you know what? I think I can make more than 700,000. That's what you're really probably banking on. But we're going to get into why it's not an exact 700,000. It's more so 700 every 2 years over anything else. But you betting on yourself like, I can generate revenue through this. I can get some sponsors here. I can do this. I can do that. And that's how I'm going to make up my own money, because you put a cap on me. You put a ceiling on me. It's a flat rate. No matter what I do, no matter how many alumni, no matter how many students, no matter if I win, none of that matters. I'm getting 700,000 no matter what. There's a cap, flat rate. Even if I don't bring anybody, 700,000. But if I'm Alabama A&M, I'm thinking to myself, I can generate more than that. Why are you putting a cap on me? Why are you telling me that this is all I get no matter what? See, I talked to Mo Carter, who is out there in Huntsville, and I talked to him about just what is a realistic amount of revenue you could see Alabama A&M making on a yearly basis. And he told me he thinks that they could exceed $750,000. That's a year. Remember, I told you it's every other year that the council was giving out 700,000. You're making more in 1 year than you would in 2 years. That's a very optimistic, best case scenario type of thing. So instead of making 700K in 2 years, you're making up 1.5 in 2 years, right? 1.5 million in 2 years. The worst case scenario is you make about 250 every year. That's about 500,000. Really, just in general, you make less than 700K in a 2-year span. That's the worst case scenario, because now you made a bad idea. Now you didn't execute to showcase why this was the right call. But a very realistic thing is maybe you make 400K a year. That totals up to 800,000. A lot of people might look at that as an L because you're going to see 400K, but you're not going to think about the fact that essentially 700 is 350,000 every year. That's essentially what it is. If you want to really kind of space it out, if you make 400 a year, you made $800,000 in the same amount of time that they would have given you 700,000. That's a win. And then this might have been the reason they needed to break up no matter what. It's the fact that Alabama A&M just didn't trust the council. They just didn't. You look at the Bulldogs, they're telling themselves, hey, look, they're telling the council, you're not showing us the money. And that's not to accuse you of ripping anybody off or anything, but I don't know exactly how much revenue is being generated. And if we're talking about negotiations, to me, that's a big part of negotiations. If we're going to discuss a flat rate over the course of 4 years, and you won't show me exactly how much money is being generated, I can't trust that. I feel like something's either being withheld from me purposely, accidentally, I don't care. It just, something is being withheld, and I need that. So the feeling of lack of transparency, to me, creates some distrust. And once you don't trust somebody of an event of this magnitude, man, wrap it up. Wrap it up. You don't need to be in business with somebody you don't trust. And I think the Alabama A&M Bulldogs brass, the athletic director, the board of trustees, I think they began to not trust the Alabama Sports Council. And that was a big reason that breakups just had to happen. That's why you had to leave that guaranteed 700,000 on the table, because I don't know if I can make more than that. And I don't know if I should be making more than that coming from you directly. But what else did they leave on the table? What else did Alabama A&M leave on the table when they decided to walk away from the council and walk away from tradition of how the Magic City Classic is usually funded? We'll dive into that answer as we continue with Locked on HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar, and Built Bar is the #1 protein bar on the market, bar none. And I've had them all. I've had candy bars, absolutely delicious. I've had protein bars, really good for you. I've never had the fusion of both to where I could have something as delicious as Built Bar that is still extremely good for you. And I mean 100% dark chocolate covers every single bar. You have the Built Puff. That's marshmallow covered in 100% dark chocolate. And if that didn't sound sweet enough, you have flavors like cookies and cream, s'mores, chocolate chip cookie dough. You have so many crazy flavors that you would never, ever believe that these things are high in protein. Probably wouldn't believe that they're low in sugar, low in fat, and low in carbs. But all of the things that I just said, completely true. And they're extremely tasty. All you have to do is go to Walmart or Sam's and get yourself a pack right now, a 4-pack, a 13-pack, or you can go to built.com/locked-on. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your offer. Now, that's what I would do. And as we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every day. Now, on tomorrow's episode, you'll have the return of Feature Friday, where I'll be breaking down somebody, and it'll be the DC Defenders head coach. Yes, Coach Barlow will be broken down in our Feature Friday. We'll see if this comes back and becomes a staple of the offseason. But right now, we're diving into Alabama A&M's decision to walk away from the Alabama Sports Council. I think it was the right call. I laid that out in the first segment, but now let's see, what are they actually walking away from? I told you, $700,000 guaranteed every other year. Sounds great. When you walk away from that kind of money, it's like, what? Let's get into specific figures. Let's get into it, because Alabama State did not walk away. They are partnered with the ASC. They are still partnered with the council. They're still going to reap the benefits. So what you're looking at for Alabama State, the Hornets, is you're going to get $500,000 no matter what. Both teams are going to get $500,000 no matter what. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, they'll walk away from this with at least $500K every single year. Now, Alabama State, I'm definitely going to blow past 25. I'm going 40 now. I just upped it to 40. But the Hornets, they'll get $1.2 million every other year, because they'll combine that $500,000 with the $700,000 that they're going to be getting from the Alabama Sports Council. So it's not $500K plus $1.2 million. No, the total's up to $1.2 million every other year. So it's going to go $500K, $1.2 mil, $500K, $1.2 mil. New deal after that. That's what you're going to see. Meanwhile, Alabama A&M, they'll have $500,000 every year, and then it'll be up to them. It's the school's responsibility now to generate all the other revenue. However, you have the ability to make more every year. Alabama State can only make more when they're the home team, right? That's when that ASC $700,000 stipend, whatever you want to call it, comes in. When you are considered the home team in the Magic City Classic. That's what I like. There's no more ceiling for the Bulldogs. No more ceiling for Alabama A&M. You get to walk into a situation where every single year the amount of revenue that you generate is squarely on your shoulders. So how are they going to supplement the amount of money that they are walking away from? How are they going to replace the absolute guarantee? That's through the task force. And Alabama A&M has a task force that will consist of a representative from the board of trustees, the senior university staff, university advisory council members, and community stakeholders. Not only is this task force going to be a part of the Magic City Classic, you're also going to have the Louis Cruz Classic, and then also Homecoming that they're going to work on. So it's just basically making these three games larger than life. When you look at an Alabama A&M schedule, you're going to be looking at a bunch of games, but there's going to be three that stand out on how they're held, or how they're, I won't say how they're held, because that's not specific enough, but how the game day operations are handled. That's how specific I want to say it, right? So these are big deals. This task force is meant to gather some local, regional, and then also some national sponsors. That's how you're going to be generating money, first off. But now they have the opportunity to do something that they never could have done. No team can do this. Alabama State still can't do it, but Alabama A&M does have the opportunity to make money off of Magic City Classic merchandise, the pep rally, and then also the parade. And that parade is known to generate a lot of revenue. A lot of revenue seems to come from that parade. So I just wonder, how much money will the Bulldogs make off of that parade? That'll be the interesting thing, because prior to this, every single one of those three things that I named went straight to the Alabama Sports Classic, or Alabama Sports Council. Saying this state so many times is really starting to trip me up. It's really starting to trip me up, but it's okay. So instead of all of the money going to the council and you getting your guarantee, you get to create your own merchandise. However the revenue comes in from the parade and the pep rally, I don't know how that split will be. I don't know what will happen with that. They'll figure that part out. But now every single year you get to make money off of that. And I kind of find it ridiculous that A&M wasn't able to make money off of merchandise. I really do. I understand how a flat rate works. It's constant, not changing, meaning no matter what happens, you're getting this $700,000. It's great for not being risky. It's great for just trust. But like I said, there was a lack of trust. So it all comes back to it. It all comes back around. So essentially, you're looking at Alabama State right here, the floor, the bottom, $500,000 every year. You know this. Then every other year, you're getting 1.2. You have a floor and you have a ceiling. Meanwhile, Alabama A&M, they have a floor, $500,000 every year from the city of Birmingham. I don't know if I said that, but the city of Birmingham is who is going to give the $500,000. That's why I said the specific revenue from the Alabama Sports Council was $700K, and that's gone for A&M. But the city of Birmingham is going to give a $500,000 payout no matter what. Alabama A&M has a floor of $500K and no ceiling. Nothing, no cap. They could make $1 million off of merchandise and all of that stuff every single year and come away $1.5 million every single year. Even with that stipend, even with that funding that the Sports Council is going to give Alabama State, they wouldn't hit $1.5 million. Now, this is all good in theory. This is all good when you're talking hypotheticals. I'm saying, you know what? You're betting on yourself. You have a good game plan. This is good business because it allows you to make money every single year instead of every other year. There's no cap set on how much revenue you can generate. All of these things are great. I love this for Alabama A&M. However, everybody's going to be watching not only because we want to see if it's going to work. It's cool in theory, but we want to see if it works in reality. Not only that, the success of the Alabama A&M task force could lead to the Alabama Sports Council being absolutely excluded from the Magic City Classic after this next contract with the Hornets is up. I'll elaborate and tell you exactly why that's the case as we wrap up today's episode of Locked on HBCU. And as we wrap up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. I truly do. I truly do appreciate it. And we're diving all the way in on a business topic. Never would I thought that I'd be on here talking business for 30 minutes. No X's and O's, no transfers, no coaches, no wins and losses, no statistics. All I'm giving is cold, hard facts and cold, hard opinions. Cold, hard opinions does not sound good. Does not sound good. Cold, hard facts and hot, soft opinions? Nah. Hot, hard opinion. None of that sounds good. All I'm here is giving you facts about what the numbers are and giving you my hot opinions. There's no texture to my opinions. They're just hot, just temperature. Okay? Anywho, if this task force for Alabama A&M is successful, if the numbers come out looking good, this could lead to the Alabama Sports Council no longer being a part of the Magic City Classic for either side. To me, the Bulldogs walking away from the council, for one thing, shows that council is not required for the Magic City Classic. It is not. Now, I understand they're still involved, but one team is left. One team has absolutely separated themselves. Therefore, to me, it tells me the show can go on. Still in Birmingham. Still going to happen. Still going to have Alabama State versus Alabama A&M. That ain't changing. But what it tells me is that the Alabama Sports Council is not needed for this game to go off because there is a chance that Alabama State could have their own task force in the future. If both teams just did that, who's to say that this classic couldn't go on forever like that? Tradition is hard. Tradition is hard. Here's the thing. The first person who starts something is always looked at as crazy. Imagine the first person who bought a microphone, recorded themselves, put themselves out. They weren't part of any kind of radio show. This wasn't, oh, you missed the show, so we're going to do this. No, we made a podcast specifically to be listened to. And then imagine the first person who took the podcast and said, you know what? We're going to add video to it. These probably looking like, man, that's not how things work. That's just not how we do things. Now look at us. We have Locked on HBCU. We have Locked on Saints. We have Locked on Pelicans. We have Locked on Longhorns. We have great content out there every single day. But the first person had to be crazy. And that first person in this situation is Alabama A&M. I understand if a lot of people said, Alabama A&M, why are you walking away from tradition? Why are you separating yourself from the council? But let's say it works. Let's say Alabama A&M generates more money within the 2 years, home and away, than they would have gotten from the from the council in that 1 year. Follow me, right? Let's say in that 2 years, you make more than, let's say the Alabama A&M task force makes $500,000 a year. It makes $1 million in 2 years as opposed to $700,000 in 2 years. Where does that leave the Alabama Sports Council, though? What does that do to the council? Because Alabama State could easily say, oh, that's what you did when you separated? Well, if I trust myself to be able to do that, I'll separate, form my own task force, get my own regional and national sponsors, and now we're both bringing in $1 million every 2 years. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different, right? Because, and that's not even, actually it end up being 1.5, really. It would end up being $1.5 million every 2 years. It's a little, my math is terrible. I was good at math and I started talking so much I lost my math. If they make $500,000 every year from the task force and you pair that with the Birmingham money, it becomes $2 million. Okay? I promise you I'm good at math and that's why I corrected myself. But you're looking at $1 million each year. Now you bring both of those in, you're making $2 million from both sides in a matter of 2 years. So that's $4 million. That's different. That's more revenue. And the benefits, basically, long story short, I'm getting all the math out. What if the Alabama A&M task force comes in and makes more money than the Alabama Sports Council would have given them? Where does that leave the Hornets? Where does that leave Alabama State? Do they sit there and come to the negotiation table and say, you know what? Now we're going to bet on ourselves. Now we're going to form our own task force. Or do they go back to the Sports Council? These are things that'll be interesting, but it requires for the task force of Alabama A&M to work first. That's the most important thing. And if that works, the pressure goes on the council. You have to now make yourself more valuable. You have to now show Alabama State, we should work with you. You now have to show Alabama State that, yeah, I understand what A&M did, but you have to understand we can provide you this, we can provide you that. Maybe you have to change some terms. Maybe you change from a flat rate. Maybe you go from, you know what, we'll give you $700,000 no matter what, but if you make this amount of money, you bring this kind of product, you sell this sort of merchandise, you get to keep it from there. Maybe it's something that includes you, but then also allows them to be a little bit more independent, takes the roof off of the revenue they're able to make, but still keeps the bottom line of $700,000. Or maybe you say, you know what, we're going to give you $700,000 every single year. Now that Alabama A&M isn't in the picture anymore, we can just give you the money we would have given them. I don't know. I'm not a businessman. That might be a terrible idea. That might be a terrible idea. I talk. I don't do business. I talk for a living. I was in the School of Communication. I didn't go to the business building. I think I had one class there my whole collegiate career. All right? But I'm just saying you have to show yourself to be more valuable now, and the pressure is on you. And the pressure on Alabama State will be to show that, hey, we're willing to leave, even if you're not. Front your move. Make them call you bluff. But you have to showcase that in a way you're kind of ready to move on the same way Alabama A&M did, and you could be successful. Who would have thought? 25 minutes talking business from the mouth of the South. And I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I'm thankful that you made us your first listen of the day every day. On tomorrow's episode, we'll be back with a Feature Friday. Coach Barlow of the DC Defenders, former head coach of Virginia State. And we'll be diving into his success in the XFL on tomorrow's episode of Locked on HBCU. But in the meantime, in between time, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.